Hello, folks. I'm Fairfield County Commissioner Steve Davis. Usually when I do these videos and things, I try to have people on here with me who aren't as attractive as me. I'm violating my rule today. What the heck? Anyway, this is Adam Sharp with the Ohio Farm Bureau, and we thought we'd take a minute today and just touch on the farming community and how they're dealing with some things. Folks may have heard, particularly here in the south and east, we've had trouble this year with the drought. I don't know specifically the impact that's had on the farming community, and I thought maybe we'd find something out about that today. I know we've been a little worried about it as a commission. We've talked to some of our staff, our utilities director, about groundwater and how the aquifer's looking for a lot of the water that we pump to get out to county residents. And oddly enough, that's been hanging fine. But I don't think that tells the whole story. So we thought we'd have Adam in today and share with us a little bit about how it's going out there.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Commissioner, and thanks for having me in. So if you look at the scope of the situation this year, about 82% of the state was drier than normal. But 47 of the 88 counties in Ohio were declared primary disaster with drought. And Fairfield was one of those. So when we look at the drought monitor, and this is a system that's been around for about 20 years or more, this was the first time that Fairfield County and frankly big parts of Ohio got into what they call the severe and really extreme areas of drought. So this is historical. Unfortunately, it's historical. So when we talk about the level of drought in the state, we had some really big bad pockets. One of those was centered just here on the west side of the county, really. So Pickaway County was kind of ground zero for one of the worst areas, and of course that affected parts, came over into Fairfield County. But all across Fairfield was definitely drier than normal. Was definitely part of what they call the D2 and D3 and even D4 areas, which is the severe to extreme areas of drought.
Are you seeing numbers that would reflect kind of where we're at? This is say on corn, bushels an acre. Is that down because of the drought? Yeah.
So historically, when you're talking to farmers, how bad has it felt, right? The monitors show one thing: how bad are they feeling it? And what we're seeing is that most farmers will tell you this is the worst since 2012, if not the worst since 1988, which was, in some of our memories, it was one of the worst drought years we've ever had in this county and in this state. Others will say it's the worst period that we know of. Now, yes, absolutely seeing the impact on the ground on the yields. So, for example, on our farm, so I'll just give you kind of real world example. And I've been talking to lots of our friends and neighbors, and of course, people across all of southern Ohio where the drought has been the worst. And you're looking at half the yield on beans. So last year you might have had 65, 70 bushels, if feeling pretty good. This year 30. 35, 40 maybe. So half the yield on beans. Corn, definitely down significantly. I mean, our good goal was get over 200 bushels the acre on corn. This year we're at about 160, 170, right? Wow, so you're off, in some places 50 bushels to the acre, right?
Now, let me just ask you about the other half of that equation. Of course, you've got your yield where you're trying to get that maximal bushels per acre. But then, of course, the price is the big deal in terms of, are we getting by this year, or are we scraping? How's the price doing?
Yeah. So glad you asked, because this is the underlying piece that gets missed. Drought, right? It's on the media. People talk about it. It's on the news. But the underlying situation is that we've had the largest 2-year economic drop in the farm economy since we've recorded the farm economy's numbers back in the 1940s. So last year and this year, we've had the largest 2-year drop in the farm economy. A lot of that comes because of that inflationary cost on our inputs and then record low prices. And this is before the drought, right? This is the farm economy, not impacted. This is not because of the drought.
Right.
So this is the baseline, unfortunately, we've started from here in this county and across the state, across the country, is terrible economic conditions for agriculture. Then you get thrown a drought on top of that, right? So now you got low yield and low prices. This morning here in this area, for beans, $9 range. Corn, you're in the $4, range, in the fours, between 4 and 5. If you're doing really well, maybe you're in the higher fours. So if you look back, not too many years ago, you're pushing half, right, the price. So you're dramatically down in corn and beans, for example, here in this county. So a big deal. Now we're talking row crops, but livestock has been one of the biggest impacts as well with this drought, because what happened here in Fairfield County, Pickaway County, Hocking, all across southern Ohio, was pastures dried up in the middle of the summer.
Yep.
Hay dried up in the middle of summer. So we, for example, would have 3-4 cuttings of hay. We had 1.5, if you will, right? So the fields just burned out, right? So less hay, pastures are fried. So what happens? Well, guys got to feed the animals, and you don't have pasture and grass in the summer. So now you start feeding the little bit of hay you had. So now you've already fed out all your hay, and you're not even in the winter time yet, right? Which is where you're trying to store hay for. So the impact of this, even though we're now into the fall, has already been, it's hit the yield side. It's hit hay, it's hit pasture. But you're going to feel it all year. You're going to feel it all the way till next summer for a lot of folks because of the hay impact and the pasture impact. So on the livestock side, it's really bad as well. And people were moving water too to feed.
So let me ask you this:
to get water to their livestock.
I've been through a couple of tough financial times in my life, and I have trouble sleeping. I'm staying awake at night. I'm trying to figure out what my plan B is.
Yeah.
In my years of working with farmers, they all have a plan B, something that helps them sleep at night, where they tell themselves, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll do this or I'll do that, or I'll try to go a different direction. They just have to have a plan B. I mean, what if you had 3 or 4 drought years in a row? I mean, where are you then?
Right.
What are some of the resources, I guess I want to ask, that farmers can turn to if they're struggling a little bit, because this is a stressful time?
Yep. Yeah, that's a big part of what we've been doing, Farm Bureau, as well with our partners. So Ohio State University, College of Ag and Extension, as well as the Ohio Department of Agriculture, as well as USDA. On the Farm Service Agency side, USDA, so the office here in Lancaster, if you're experiencing difficulties with your farm economy, with the economy of your farm, give them a call. Schedule an appointment, go in and talk to them about the farm assistance programs that they have. They have loan assistance programs, they have hay and grazing, they have crop. There's a series of things that you can go in and talk to them about with assistance. So that's a helpful piece for them. Extension, OSU Extension, has a series of educational pieces. How can I help on my farm with the diet of my animals, because my hay is burned up, right? So I'm going to be feeding and buying different things that I might normally be feeding my animals. What do I need to know? How to manage my farm. The economics of my specific farm. What are the things that maybe I need to think about as far as my plan B, right? So good resources there. The Ohio Department of Agriculture has a hay directory. So you can get on ODA's website and look at the hay directory, places where folks are selling hay. Because it's hard to find it right now across southern Ohio. So that's another piece. And the last but not least, it's the mental health side. So we have a campaign that ourselves, ODA, OSU, State Department, various departments in the state have, and it's called GotYourBackOhio.org. So GotYourBackOhio.org. That's a resource guide that a whole series of us have come together to put together online for farmers who are dealing with mental stress, right? Farm stress, and there's no time like the present. So that's a good resource for people as well. And we've done a lot of work of raising that awareness for farmers these last number of years, actually because of a series of ups and downs in the farm economy that we always experience. And more farmers are aware now than they've ever been of those resources, but we got to keep talking to them about these resources. We're seeing more and more folks reach out, get that kind of help, talk to people. We just surveyed farmers and we asked them these questions. We said, how many of you have experienced farmer mental health concerns? And 3/4 will say, I'm pretty good, right? I feel pretty good. But 1/4 say, I'm pretty stressed. I'm worried. And almost half said at some point in the last year they wouldn't mind having somebody to talk to. So we know that there's more to do there. So again, that GotYourBackOhio.org is a good resource, and that's specifically for farmers with mental health and farm stress.
So folks, we went on just a couple minutes longer than we normally do today, but you go to the store, you have a meal, maybe you go to a restaurant and there's food and you think everything's fine. And it is. But if you get a chance today, do what I'm doing here today and thank a farmer. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
As always, Fairfield County Commissioner Steve Davis, and boy, am I thankful to be your county commissioner.